The New Smyrna Museum of History presents Minorcan Voices, oral histories by descendants of Florida's Turnbull settlement. Today's special guest, Rick Newell.
Well, both of my fifth great grandfathers came over here as children with Dr. Turnbull from Minorca. One of them was Antonio Andro. He was 15 years old, came over with his family, and the other fifth great grandfather was Andrew Lopez. He came over with his family. They, of course, were part of the original colony. Antonio Andrew married a Minorcan girl who came over with her family into the colony. While he was in the colony, her name was Aguida Pons, and they had 10 children. 2 of the children were actually born here in the colony in New Smyrna during the 9-year period the colony lasted. When the colony eventually collapsed in 1777, both Antonio Andrew and Andrew Lopez and their families had survived the colony, and they, along with all of the remaining colonists, walked to St. Augustine, where they finished out the rest of their lives in that city. Today there are still a load of Andrews and Lopez's still living in the St. Augustine area, which are the direct descendants of these 2 original colonists. Well, when I moved here to New Smyrna about 8 years ago, the only thing I knew about the town was that my father was born here in 1910. So after I got established here, I started doing some genealogy studies on my father's side of the family, trying to find out where his family had come from, why they were here in 1910. Well, in that initial search, I discovered that my father's mother, or my grandmother, was 100% Minorcan. Her maiden name was Mears, Mabel Mears. So my study then took 2 directions, one for the Newell side and another direction for the Mears side, which was the Minorcan side of the family. And in tracing her lineage back, I was able to document all the way back to the Turnbull colony, as I had mentioned earlier, where my 2 fifth great grandfathers had come over here as children as part of the colony. So I kind of found out about my Minorcan heritage, kind of a happenstance, when I was actually doing a genealogy work on the Newell side of the family. In retrospect and looking back, I do recall that as a young child, having dinners over at my grandmother's house, usually on a Sunday afternoon, and many times she would serve this dish that she called perlo, and it was a rice and pork combination with onions and peppers and so forth. But as a child, I loved this perlo dish that she made. And as I was growing up, even well into the years I was after I was married, I'd go into a restaurant and I'd look for this perlo item on the menu, and of course it was never there. And even asking people about it, they had never heard of it. And the reason was it was an old Minorcan dish. So when I moved here to New Smyrna about 8 years ago, the first person I asked about perlo, they knew exactly what I was talking about. In fact, I soon found out that everybody in New Smyrna knew what perlo was, and everybody had their own recipes. And it was one of the staples of the colony, this perlo dish. And of course, they would put whatever meat items they could find into this rice concoction, and usually it would be either chicken or shrimp. But perlo is still a very popular dish here today, but it had its origins all the way back to the Turnbull colony. Well, I really don't have any items or artifacts. The only thing I would have along those lines would be pictures of my great-grandmother, Estelle Lopez Mears. Other than that, as far as items, that would be it, just those pictures. As far as stories, I do understand from stories I think that kind of filtered down over the years is that she, my great-grandmother, met her husband, William Mears, in St. Augustine when they were both working together in a cigar rolling factory there in St. Augustine. And then they married and, of course, had children, and the family grew from there. Well, I would ask any visitor here to the museum or to the city to take a few minutes and look beyond the natural beauties of New Smyrna and take a few minutes to learn about the unique history of this little town. This little community of New Smyrna is the only representation they have of that little short 20-year time span when Florida was under the control of England. This was it. This was the only settlement here, and strangely enough, it was the largest settlement that England ever attempted in the New World. It was 3 times the size of Jamestown. Unfortunately, the colony only lasted for 9 years and was closed in 1777. And everybody left, and the town just died. But like the phoenix, it just keeps rising from the ashes. The town slowly started rebuilding itself until 1835, when the Seminole Indian Wars broke out and New Smyrna was burned to the ground by the Indians. And again, everything was totally demolished. After the wars were over, the town started rebuilding. People started moving back into the area, and this little community started to thrive. And then along came the Civil War. During the Civil War, the town was completely obliterated by naval bombardment from Union gunboats that just sat offshore and bombarded the city for 24 hours straight, and everything was gone again. After the Civil War was over, the town slowly started coming back again and has grown from the late 1800s into what we have here today, is to one of the most sparkling little coastal communities in all of Florida. But I would just ask them to take a few minutes and look back into the history of this little town, and it's probably got one of the most unique stories to tell of any town in Florida.